Rebecca, could you tell us where we are and why are we here?
Sure thing. So we're standing at the corner of Chenal Parkway and Rawling Road, and behind us is the Chenal Promenade Shopping Center, which in 1995, when the Metro 2020 plan was written, was otherwise known as the Woods. And I think this is an excellent place to start a conversation about land use and how it relates to our long-term transportation plan.
So what part of Metro 2020 in the land use section do you think most pertains to transit?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. So in the plan on page 35, there are some land use recommendations outlined, and number 10 actually mentions transit. The quote is to encourage more office development in the metropolitan core rather than the periphery and support it with transit. So while we have seen development in the core along with development of transit corridors, we have also spent a lot of time developing our land westward in the central Arkansas area, especially in Little Rock. And so we're standing out at not even the westward, the most farthest point west at this point. So what we haven't done is we haven't supported that development with transit. And so one thing that we would like to explore is how we can better match up our land use with transit, because they go hand in hand together.
I think you're absolutely right. I see you have a book there that you've been referencing.
That's right. So Jared Walker is a transportation planning expert. He's a transit planning guy, and he wrote an awesome book called Human Transit. And the last few chapters are dedicated to the importance of land use and how it directly ties to your transit system. And so a part of his basically his philosophy can be boiled down to what he calls be on the way, which makes a lot of sense. If you want to have transit be part of a sustainable community, the most important thing for you to do is to make sure that your things are along the transit corridor. So your businesses, your healthcare clinics, your shopping centers, whatever it is along a transit corridor, because that also ensures that people have transportation choice and equal access to the amenities that are here in our community.
So what is the main appeal of having access to this area?
Well, I think the obvious answer on face value is shopping, and one of the state's only Apple stores here. Right. And you know, this is the top request for transit riders in our system, is to have a route that comes here to this location. Like I said, state's only Apple store, but also all other unique stores here. I'm pretty sure the state's only Madewell, at least Central Arkansas is only one. DSW, which is my favorite.
Right.
So those are all stores, and we can sense a theme here. But there's also, in addition to retail, there are jobs here. There's a lot of jobs just right here at this campus, but also along Chenal leading up to this campus, there are plenty of jobs to be had. There's a huge Kroger. I think it might be the state's largest or one of the state's largest Krogers. On the way here, I just passed a brand new building complex. I don't know if you did too. It's under construction, called Chenal Park Center.
Yes.
And I didn't even know it just rose up out of the ground overnight. So that's yet another thing that will probably be turned into offices where people can access jobs. And also there are a growing number of health clinics out here. And so if you have a specialty clinic that you need to visit that only treats certain diagnoses in this location and you don't have transit access, you know, you're kind of stuck with either Uber, Lyft, or paying a taxi to get you there.
Yeah. What can we do to ensure land use has a more prominent role in future long-range transportation plans?
Well, even though I think it's great that there are land use recommendations in the Metro 2020 plan, I think my critique would be to have added them earlier in the document, because if you look at the appendix, you can tell that there are some comments from the public and people who commented on this, and you can tell they kind of didn't really understand why land use was even part of the conversation.
Yeah.
But of course, you know this because it's what you do for a living. Land use is absolutely integral to the process of planning your long-range transportation plan. And again, I return to Jared Walker's book because he has some really good advice, and that is to basically make it more conversational. Instead of building a plan and putting it in a nice binder and sticking it up on a shelf and only referring to it every 5, 10, or 25 years, pull it out, talk about it more often with the transit planning and developing experts in your community. So, and also do that at different levels of government more frequently. So he likens it to a conversation back and forth, and I think that's a really great way to describe it. So, you know, you talk to, for example, some developers in your area, and they talk about some of their plans for buildings, which you may not have realized that they were working on, and that kind of makes you think, this might be a good meetup point for a connection. Then you go back to your route planning and plan some some routes. Then you take that and take it back to your MPO, Metro Plan in our case, and they talk about what they would do and where they see the job centers here going, and where they know about a big healthcare property that's been built that's going to be developed 10 years out. So these are the kinds of things that are going on now, and this is how we can plan tomorrow for today. Because, you know, one big challenge that we have coming up is that Central Arkansas is aging. And we need to be able to plan tomorrow's needs today. And you can't really do that if you don't have ongoing conversations with people in the community about what the needs really are.
So making sure we have a more collaborative effort in connecting everything together. So collaboration and connectivity, huh?
Yeah, and not just in a formal way, but also in an informal way.
Exactly. Thank you, Becca.